If you're enjoying this content, hit that subscribe button. Join us. New from All Caps Comics, Cyberfrog, Unforgettable Tales on Indiegogo. 2 classic comics presented in color for the first time, plus a Blacklight Salamandroid poster. Back in today, links in the description below. Alright, yeah, it's Comic Artist Pro Secrets. My name's Ethan Van Sciver, 27-year veteran of the comic book industry, world's most charming, elegant, eloquent, and yet humble man. Great big Star Wars fan and trusted member of the media. Alright, so it looks like our questions are being answered here. At C2E2 today, Jim Lee, who was co-publisher of DC Comics along with Dan DiDio until last Friday, when Dan DiDio was suddenly, abruptly, without warning, fired by DC Entertainment. And people have been wondering, waiting for an announcement, waiting for DC Entertainment to actually make a statement about this and then announce a successor or what the plan was. We've been following it here on Comic Artist Pro Secrets. I've been doing my best to explain from my standpoint, my position as somebody who used to work there for 20 years, what my opinion is about what's going on over there with the AT&T merger. If you haven't been following this story on a much larger sense, Warner Brothers, Time Warner, which owns DC Comics, merged with AT&T. It kind of AT&T bought the company, and so AT&T, which is in a lot of debt, and Time Warner, which is also in a lot of debt, they decided that their whole plan for the future was to create a streaming service that would compete with Netflix and Disney Plus and Amazon Prime. Okay, so that was the whole point of the merger, but their shareholders are very upset, and they're saying there's a lot of fat to be cut here. What are you going to do to sort of trim some of this more useless stuff off of the company? There should be some heads that will roll in order to save a few bucks. So one of those heads that rolled recently was Dee Myers, former Clinton White House spokesperson, who took over and did publicity, a spokesperson for Warner Brothers. She was actively involved with DC Entertainment. She got fired, and then of course Dan DiDio. So we're watching all of this play out, and I said I don't know the key to all of this. If you want to know, if you want a good signal about how DC Comics is going to be, their health going forward, watch this man. Watch what they do with Jim Lee. My feeling was that if Jim Lee was promoted to a position outside of publishing, above and beyond publishing, right now he's publisher and also chief creative officer. This man has absorbed Jeff Johns' job as chief creative officer, and now he's absorbed the other half of his position as publisher. He is currently now king of DC Comics. So we had to kind of watch what was going to go on with him. If they'd promoted him to some other position at Warner Brothers or DC Entertainment, movies and television, then it looked like that would have been a signal that they're imminently going to shut down publishing. We were waiting to see signs of stability. I would have liked to have seen, a new co-publisher be appointed, somebody from in-house be promoted to help him out and take some of the workload off of his shoulders. But instead, there isn't going to be a promotion. Nobody's going to replace Dan DiDio. Jim Lee is saying, I'm going to do it all myself. Okay, I'm terrified. But at the same time, Jim Lee being the publisher all by himself signals a sense of stability to people. No big changes are going to happen, everyone. He's saying there aren't going to be a lot of changes. We're going to go forward with what we're doing. Yeah, we are bringing in more creative talent from outside of the comic book industry, and I still think that is going to mean it's obviously going to mean fewer jobs at DC Comics for regular comic book professionals, writers who have been working there forever. But Jim Lee's presence as publisher there, if you are concerned about the health of DC Comics, and I think everyone who loves comics kind of is, hoping for the best for DC Comics, this is a good sign. I think it kind of shows that Warner Brothers and AT&T are going to give DC Publishing a good 2 years at bat here. Let's see what Jim Lee does. Let's see what he can do for the company. Now, I'm told one of the reasons why Dan DiDio was dismissed from his job is that Dan DiDio micromanages everything, and that is so true. It was one of his strengths and also one of his weaknesses. Dan would get involved in the most picayune aspects of publishing and creative when he was EIC and then again publisher at DC Comics. He was really, really involved. And he was also writing comics too. He's writing comics, you might say for positions where it really is a matter of, it's a meritocracy. These are positions that are earned, creative jobs at DC, to be publisher and then just allow yourself unhindered. Who's going to tell you no? What editor is going to tell you no? I don't think your story's very good when you're the publisher. And Dan DiDio was writing Metal Men and writing all kinds of things. And nobody's going to tell him no, his story isn't very good. So there's a little bit of conflict of interest there. Jim Lee, on the other hand, is not hands-on like that. I don't think he's hands-on at all. I told the story of a meeting that I had, a creative meeting with him, and all of DC, all the big editorial guys, okay, the chiefs, the bigwigs at DC Comics, talking about New 52, talking about Plastic Man, and everybody was deeply, deeply involved. And Jim Lee, his contributions were slight. I mean, and I don't think they were, when he was asked what to do, what we should do with Plastic Man, Jim Lee kind of said, I don't know, make his costume like black, and I guess I want to hear scientific reasons why his powers work. And I just was like, okay, well, that's that's a sci-fi book, and this is we're doing an organized crime noir kind of thing in the Batman universe. So I disagree with where you're coming from. He didn't really want to get involved, and I think that's kind of a good sign. I think he should feel uncomfortable getting too involved with creative, and he should just allow creative people to do their thing. I think that maybe running the company is also going to leave this man less time to design and redesign superhero costumes, which is a blessing, because I personally don't like his redesigns. I think they're too involved, and they are full of unnecessary details that make them difficult to draw. I had to go when Jim Lee went out and he redesigned the DC universe for the New 52. Everything was kind of the same, except he put lines all over everything. The costumes looked like they had special unique stitching all over that you had to kind of memorize. And I solved the problem by going out and buying the DC Direct toys of his design, so I always knew where where like the weird lines were that he put there. It was just it was a headache. The simplicity of these superhero designs, where look, essentially you're drawing people in underpants. You're drawing naked people in underpants and capes, and maybe a little logo on their chest, right? And then they're colored gray or blue or something like that. The simplicity of those designs is wonderful because it allows for people to be speedy in their drawing and to draw these these designs and these heroes fast and on time and maybe more than one page a day. These designs really didn't do much aesthetically and really did slow everyone down. So I would say no more designs, please, Dan. I mean, not Dan, Jim. No more designs, please, Jim. Just do your thing. I will say also, and another kind of neat thing about Jim Lee is that he really, look how physically fit he is. Jim Lee used to stress a lot. He'd say, guys, and he'd tell us artists, he'd say, you can't, I know yet it feels like you have to, I know it feels like time is short, in a day, and you've got to get your pages done, but you got to get outside and kick a soccer ball around. You got to do something. You got to stay active because, one of the worst problems with being a comic book professional is that it's a sedentary job. And, it really does feel like there aren't enough hours in the day to get, to be competitive and get as much work as you can done. So therefore, you eat at your desk. You don't move. You're just sitting there drawing, focused on a page. It's terrible for your health, but it's also terrible for your mental health. And it makes you a socially inadequate weirdo. which is, I mean, that is an epidemic in comics. You know, people who just kind of, and I feel it too when I'm spending way too much time at my desk with headphones on and I'm working on my comic books. I don't feel, I get introverted again. I feel like I feel weird and awkward around people. And when you go to a comic convention and you talk to some of these professionals, you really get the sense that they are, I don't know, super awkward, have social anxiety disorder mixed with extreme egotism and narcissism, and that is the formula. That's the toxic brew that comes out of living in your head and being told you're a celebrity and a genius at the same time. I'm grateful for YouTube. I like doing this channel because it keeps me, it lets me flex my personality a little bit. I'm trying to think of a better way to say that. You know, when I'm on line and I'm doing live streams and I'm interacting with other human beings, even though I'm still in my basement office, it really does allow me to sort of talk to other people and exercise social skills. That is something that, you know, Jim Lee would always remind comic book professionals: exercise your mind, exercise your body, be social, go to parties, go to functions, and you know, kick a soccer ball around. So that's a good thing. I always think about Jim Lee saying that, and I think that's good, healthy advice for comic book professionals. Let me just check this article real quick. This is on Newsarama. Yellow Flash actually told me this. He hit me up in private and said, hey, you know, I'm at C2E2 and I heard Jim Lee, I went to his panel, and he basically made it sound like he is going to be the singular publisher now, and they're not going to replace Dan DiDio. And then sure enough, Newsarama picks it up. So DC's now sole publisher, and Chief Creative Officer Jim Lee has indicated that DC won't replace DiDio, who recently exited the company. Let's see, there's a quote here. There's continually new things going on, and I look at being sole publisher now and the team I'm working with much more in the trenches now than ever before. Yeah, look, we've been with Warner Brothers for decades. The actual strategy for DC is to put publishing at the center of what we do. It's the engine of the movies, TV, cartoons that we do. This is their argument to AT&T. They're not talking to you. I mean, you're already convinced about that. They're talking, Jim Lee is speaking to AT&T now. He's saying, we are the engine that gives you ideas so that you can go ahead and make movies. Now, AT&T is going to look at this differently because AT&T is going to look at what's on the dockets here, and they're going to say, hey, dummies in publishing, and no disrespect to Jim Lee, but dummies in publishing, we're putting out we're putting out Robert Pattinson as Batman, okay? And your guys's, sorry, it's my jersey coming out. Your guys's plan is to replace Bruce Wayne with a black guy. You're taking Batwing and you're turning him into Batman. So Batman in the near future is going to be black in your 5G program. Well, you know, it would probably be good if, like, you guys kind of backed up the ideas that we're putting out there. If you guys kind of underscored and amplified the stuff that we're doing rather than sort of fighting and resisting it. And that is indeed, this is the path that Marvel Comics went down in 2015, 2016, when they basically killed Thor, they killed Iron Man, they killed Bruce Banner, and then at the same time they've got, you know, all of these Avengers movies out there with these classic original characters. Everyone loves them. The movies are making billions of dollars, and yet they're not represented in the comics. So I anticipate that this is going to be a problem. Nevertheless, Jim Lee is going to stick his chin out here, and he's going to straighten up his back and his spine, and he's going to tell people everything's fine. You know, they depend on us. Nothing could be further from the truth than that, and he knows it. He says, all right, it's my intent going forward as the publisher to lean into the collective years of my team. Good, yeah, and I think that's what he's saying there is positive. I hope nothing starts here. Hold on, let me pause this. What he's saying here is positive, and it further kind of underscores, you know, why Dan DiDio got fired. According to rumor, he was too into it. He wasn't letting creative people be creative. It was the Dan DiDio show, and he tried to stop himself from being that, from those falling into those habits, but he couldn't stop. Let's see. He says, Lee also seemingly vaguely addressed rumors about Marvel acquiring DC, which have made their way into some internet rumor circles of late, shooting down any chance of this. Look at this. And I've already shot this down, but we'll do it again. To address some of the stuff that's out there, there's rumors, speculation. I wouldn't put any credence into it. DC's been around for 85 years, and we will be around another 85 years. I hope to be doing this panel in 85 years. That is bold statement, but that doesn't really address the rumor about Marvel acquiring DC. That's just not going to happen for the simple reason that Warner Brothers wants to continue to put out Batman and Superman and Wonder Woman movies. They want to do Aquaman. They want to put these movies out. They just don't really want to do the publishing. Now, Disney and Marvel, the sole reason why they do everything they do in terms of publishing is because they want to make movies. So they got Conan. They're putting out the Conan comic books. That's because Fox, which they've just acquired, owns Conan, and now Disney owns Conan. So we might as well do the Conan comic book as well, Conan the Barbarian. Star Wars has always been kind of a Marvel property, like ever since the 1970s when the movie first came out. Marvel published the Star Wars comic. Disney acquires Star Wars, so of course Marvel acquires the Star Wars comic book license when I guess Dark Horse let go of it. And that's just the way it is. Like, Marvel Comics publishes comic books that Disney can make movies about. So there's no way that Marvel Comics would ever license DC's superhero characters, okay, just to make the minuscule amounts of money that you can make in publishing if Disney couldn't then make the Batman movies. If Disney could make the Batman movies, it's a done deal. But since they can't, they would see it this way. They would go, we're publishing DC's characters, which is promoting DC's or Warner Brothers movies, right? We're publishing comic books that promote their movies, and not only that, we're paying them for the right to promote their movies. That's not going to happen. We're not going to do that. So there's no chance that Marvel would ever publish DC superhero characters. That's just off the slate. And Marvel, again, you know, shows you day in and day out that, like, that's how they feel about it. It's about movies. It's about who owns the movie rights. You know, Marvel Comics didn't even publish the Fantastic Four when they didn't own the movie rights to it. So, you know, I don't think it could be any more clear than that. He says, Lee also spoke about the chances DC's impending 5G initiative would constitute yet another reboot, saying that's not in the cards. He says, it's hard to talk about these things we haven't announced. Intention, not to do a line-wide reboot. Our focus in talking to editorial team is to continue what we've done best, character-driven stories, pairing right creators on right characters, and developing characters that are inclusive and diverse. So we're going to go down that path, all right? We're going down the lispy social justice warrior path, but Jim Lee's heart kind of has been there. He doesn't talk about it that much, but yeah, like he is. He feels sympathy with SJWism, and he thinks that inclusion and diversity, which is going to basically mean replacing white male characters with diverse, not counterparts. Which, by the way, like stand-ins, fakes. Which, by the way, it just means that white males are non-diverse people, which is amusing to me. I don't know why that is the case. DC did not respond to Newsarama's request for comment at the time of this story's publication. Of course, they still haven't released their statement yet. So Jim Lee's sounding very, I don't know, he sounds very confident. Here's the thing, that is an act for you, for your self-confidence. That is bluster. AT&T is full of men who make $50 million a year, who will always be looking at DC Comics cockeyed and saying, why are we doing this again? And then they will, at any moment, pull the rug out from underneath DC Comics should it not perform to a standard that, you know, makes them look like they are something other than a loss leader for their company. So congratulations. I think congratulations to Jim Lee. I think this is a good move. It's the best move they could have possibly made under the circumstances for wanting to stay in business. Does it mean anything really? No, it doesn't. It doesn't. You know, all of this stuff and the fate of DC Comics is 100% outside of the control of this man. It entirely depends on the shareholders and their complaints and the whims of people in much better suits than Jim Lee owns, and that's saying something. Thanks for watching this video. If you enjoyed this video, do me a favor, leave me a comment, let me know how you feel, your thoughts about it. Interact with this video by clicking like on it, sharing the video, and if you haven't subscribed to this channel yet, make sure that you do. There's a lot of interesting stuff in the comic book industry. I'll talk you through it. I'll give you my perspective, which is going to be different from the perspective of the garbage tier left-wing comic book media. But I'm going to try to be as real with you as I can. I could be wrong about some things, but I have pretty good sources, and I try to kind of cut through the malarkey, as they say, as best as I can, and just give you the bold, honest truth and reality. So subscribe to this channel. Hey, also please back Cyberfrog Unforgettable Tales, and then sign up for the Cyberfrog 2 Wrecked Planet mailing list. We're going to launch that campaign on March 15th. If you sign up and give me your email so I can warn you in advance and then back the comic book, I'm going to give you a free free trading card of the Vespis, the bad guys, that nobody else is going to get, just people who get on the email list. So that means you. Do that for me, do me a favor, and I don't know, I'll see you guys later with another video. Bye-bye. Hey, you want to follow me on Twitter? Are you sure? Well, if so, I'm at Ethan Van Sciver. That's at Ethan Van Sciver. See you there. Hey, I got a P.O. box. Want to send me some mail? Send it to Ethan Van Sciver, P.O. Box 607, Marlton, New Jersey, 08053. And I'll probably open it up on the live stream. Thanks very much, everyone.